H Davis on the beat,
Hey everyone, welcome to Zip House. I'm your host Bree. Today we have Blakk Soul. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. Have my coffee, as I was saying, and I'm feeling real energized, feeling good.
Where you get that coffee from?
It's called Campfire Coffee in Tacoma,
Mhm.
Washington. A older partner of mine just opened it up. It's a black-owned coffee spot, and it's really nice. The aesthetics are really like outdoorsy,
Mhm.
and the coffee was A1. So yeah.
I listen. I love coffee. I just had some too, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to get me an import over here to New York.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm sure you can make it happen.
Yes, sir. So I'm so excited to have you. As you mentioned, you're from Tacoma, Washington. What was it like growing up?
Just cool inner city living.
Mhm.
Played sports around a lot of people of color. Same risks and hazards as any inner city neighborhood to overcome. But we blessed and flourishing and thriving. So everybody that knows me knows I love my hometown and I represent it everywhere I go.
Right, right. That's dope. Do you feel like it has influenced your passion for creating music?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I honestly feel like I do because I've lived in LA for the last 3 years.
Hmm.
And I always feel like I do my best writing at home for some reason. Maybe because it
Hmm.
rains a lot. It's a little bit more of a moody
Like
climate.
soothing. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
It's
I
like
don't know.
the weather can get you in your feelings a little bit quicker.
Yeah, in a way that comes out pretty cool creatively. So yeah.
So how did you begin creating music?
Um. So I've always kind of been singing, but not necessarily with the intent to pursue a career in music. That wasn't probably until like my second year of college,
Hmm.
and then I was playing sports up until that point, and then when sport
What sports?
Oh, football, basketball, and track.
Oh, ooh, 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 okay. I got two
Yeah.
out of the three.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And you just reached to a point where I just maxed out and it wasn't moving forward in the way that I wanted it to. So I really had to take a look at um at myself and I was like, okay, what do I do naturally that I feel like if I put some work into and invest some time in, it could really turn into something. And everybody had always kind of foresaw a career in music for me before I did, because
Yeah.
ball was life. So I
But
was
was
like, yeah,
life.
this gonna get me out of here. Yeah, this is all I need.
Right, right.
And so that's ended up what it was. And I came back to music, and my roommate at the time, I kind of ran the idea by him. I was like, what do you think if I would have really like take a real stab at it? And he was just like, why not? And I was
Right.
like,
Valid.
and then we kind of just ran with it after that.
Right. That's dope. What was the moment where you discovered that you can sing yourself?
Um, that moment was probably like fifth grade.
Oh,
Um,
word?
yeah, because I like to sing this. As a kid, you like to sing the songs that you hear on the radio, but you
Mhm.
don't really know if you're doing anything until somebody tell you. Oh, it was like my fifth grade teacher, black lady named Miss Cradle. She had heard
Mhm.
me like singing just in the back of class and whatnot, and picked up on it and noticed that I had a gift. And then she prepared me to sing a song for Mama by Boys to Men when I was in fifth grade,
Ooh. Mhm.
and all the moms and grandmas and aunties was out there crying
Tell my boy, you better sing.
and yeah. And so that
Mhm.
was probably the first moment where I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like people
Right.
actually like hearing my voice. All right.
Did you feel like some of the attention changed for you differently when people knew you can sing or you requested to sing a little bit?
I was requested to sing often. And
Yeah.
it almost got to the point where it became normal. Like people were
Mhm.
just randomly asking me to sing at, regular scenarios. We were just chilling. And then I was like, oh, so this is what comes with being a singer. Like people gonna always ask you to do this.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's always a cool experience, and I always wonder, like, what people think. Because I know when I discovered, like, one of my friends could actually sing, and she doesn't pursue it at all, I was like, "So, like, can you do this regularly for
right.
me?" And she's like, "No, no." But yeah, that's cool. So, as you developed as an artist, you chose to be independent?
I did choose to be independent. I know earlier on I had I wouldn't necessarily say it was a hard offer, but it was a potential offer to be a part of a label. And it just, they wanted me to be somebody that I wasn't. And I've always valued, I guess, learning the infrastructure of things. And so I kind of was keen to learning the business side of music as I was breaking in and kind of learning just the craft itself. And it just felt like my understanding of it was until I had enough leverage to where like a major label scenario made sense, you just got to build it up. So I took the stairs instead of the elevator.
I literally have one
Oh,
second. Let me show you this, okay?
okay.
I don't know if you can see this. It says the elevator to success is broken. Take the
Take the
stairs.
stairs. Oh, yeah. Oh, check that out.
See, we on the same path here. We on the
Same
same path
page.
here.
Yeah. That's
I really like that you said that. Who was your influence for that statement?
uh I don't know. I think it's just I grew up around a lot of old school cats, so it was just
Yeah,
a saying that kind of floated around that made sense to me.
yeah. I
Yeah,
always get shocked when I see that because it's like, for me, I learned that phrase from Jennifer Lewis, who is someone who I admire quite a bit. So I
okay.
always get really excited when I hear someone else say the same phrase because
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so we're on the same mental frequency here.
Right.
That is
Yeah, and
really dope.
it's a longer process. It's a lot more grunt work involved, but I feel like the end goal is a lot more gratifying when you build it up brick by brick.
Hmm.
And it lasts. It's a lot of times just because everything looks popping and looks like everybody's balling out, living the best life up front in the beginning, doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to sustain them for the duration of their career,
Right.
depending on what
That is a fact.
they agreed to and signed over. So
Hmm.
yeah, I was always trying to think long term.
That's good. A lot of people think too short.
Right, right.
So you said that the labels was potentially requesting you to be someone who you are not. So who would you say that you are?
Uh, just Blakk Soul. I'm a regular, hardworking, soulful kind of cat, and
Hmm.
I only look to tell my stories in terms of my art, and
Hmm.
stories that either apply to me or that I've actually physically seen myself and experienced.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's not no knock on anybody that likes to, I guess, participate in like fiction in terms of like how they create the art. It's different styles and different strokes for different folks, but that's just my
Hmm.
story. I like
Right.
the content in the delivery to be authentic to me.
I like that. Has that thought process helped you with your songwriting?
It's actually made songwriting a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Um, because
How so?
it's two different mind states. I would say in terms of writing for myself and writing for others. When you're writing for
Hmm.
others, you kind of have to be a little bit more general, a little bit more vague, so you can tailor the concepts to the lifestyles or the current events of whoever you're writing for, which you don't
Hmm.
always know. Like I don't, unless I sit down and I'm privileged enough to be able to have a conversation with the artist that I'm writing for. You're kind of just
Hmm.
taking shots in the dark on what they could be going through
Right.
based on what you see on, do your research and what you find out. But with me, I know my stories and I know what's true to me and how they happened, and it's easy to tell that.
So when you were writing, for other people, when you say it's a little bit difficult because you are now curating your experiences to maybe what is in sync with their experiences or similar to music that they previously put out. When you're trying to get a placement and everything, do you select the artist or do you start off writing the tracks and then ship them out?
Uh, I think it's different every time. It's been times where I've had records already written that maybe sonically I could hear the artist's voice on it, and so I'll try to get
Hmm.
in contact with their people and submit the records in that way.
Hmm.
But then sometimes you're able to actually sit down in the studio space with the artist, and you can kind of go off of whatever beat that they decide to choose, or whatever ideas that they kind of start off, and then you can kind of help them tailor it up and finish it. So I don't think there's ever it's ever like a one size fits all
One
to
way.
my approach. Yeah.
Hmm. What do you say that your creative process is like when you're trying to write in general? I know you said home seems where the creativity juices flow a little bit better, but what practices do you do to get yourself in the rhythm?
um I listen to the beat oftentimes,
Hmm.
or if my inspiration came from actual music composition, and just try to listen to what it tells me, listen to what feelings
Mhm.
it evokes, and try to write based on that. Um,
Mhm.
but there's sometimes where I'll just hear a melody or a rhythm in my head, and I'll start recording vocals to a click track, and then have a producer build the music around what I'm hearing.
Ah, right, right.
Yeah.
Okay. I really like that. That's a very interesting concept. So, like, can you just elaborate a little bit what that experience is like?
It's really just a bunch of ideas swirling around in your head, different melodies, different
Yeah.
concepts, and then getting that tempo down so you can deliver it in the way that you deliver it. And then sometimes it's exciting because some producers nail it, some don't. But it's always really cool when you send it off to your producer friends, or you get to listen to them building their own interpretations of what you're hearing in musically, and then it turns into this whole different thing. You're just like, this is crazy that I even thought it was going to be like, okay.
Right, right. So has this experience of like the curation, doing formulating it the way that you see it sonically in your head, has that helped you with engineering? Because you've gotten some really great gigs and mentorship from Mike and Keys. Like, how was that?
I definitely does. I definitely think that me being an artist has helped out my engineering career immensely, because you have a lot of engineers that go to the schools and that they're very savvy technically. Like they know
Hmm.
what frequencies ideally are supposed to be in what ranges, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Um, but sometimes they're missing the feel factor, and that's knowing what records are supposed to feel like, and having some kind of musical integrity based on the genre that you're writing or creating in. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
where my artistry comes into play as an engineer. Oftentimes I make music so I know what the vibe or the feel is supposed to be for the music that I'm engineering, so I can kind of work in tandem with what I know it's supposed to sound like and get it technically right.
Right. Do you feel that it plays a huge role to be an artist and the producer, engineer? Do you think it works hand in hand together?
I think it definitely does. It's kind of become my brand. I've started to gain, I guess, notoriety as being like a one-stop shop. But
Yes.
I think more so for me, like that's definitely not why I started doing it. I started doing it because it was more cost efficient for me. Like
Okay.
at first, trying to, spend money on studio time, spend money on beats, spend money on engineering, like it adds up. And I was just, working a regular job. There's only so much you can pay for outside of your bills. And
Right.
so I really learned how to do all that stuff out of necessity. And then later on, I just learned how valuable of a skill set it was to learn how to do all of that once I, started working in the major industry.
Right. So your experiences pretty much prove themselves because you've basically led yourself into rooms with major names like Anderson .Paak, Dr. Dre, Macklemore, Playboi Carti. I'm sure your list goes on. How did
Mhm.
that come about for you?
It really started with an opportunity for me to go to the Grammys back in 2017. I was working for Boeing at the time, airplane company,
Uh-huh.
and I had an opportunity to go, and my manager at the time would not approve my time to go. So,
Oh.
I had to reclaim my time and go anyway.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I ended up getting let go from that job. But I was doing work with an old school cat of mine, a buddy named Jake One. And he was the one that
Mhm.
actually connected me with Mike and Keys when I got out to LA.
Wow.
And when I met up with them, I had the pleasure of meeting them, meeting Nipsey, and I got to play him some stuff. And their
Mhm.
question for me was like, who was doing all the engineering and the mixing and stuff on my records? And I told them it was me.
Mhm.
Shortly thereafter, they offered me an engineering gig, and I was like, "Damn, that's crazy!" Because I actually am in need of a new gig right now. To come out here, I had to sacrifice my last job, and it was
Mhm.
like after I made that transition, I told them I needed like a week to get all my stuff together. Came back home,
And
packed up all my stuff in the storage unit, and hit the
mhm.
road.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
was the binding force behind you taking that leap of faith? Did you just feel that it was the time to go for it, or is like a spiritual thing?
It was a little of both.
Mhm.
Everybody I knew, like in my as far as my music colleagues, have been trying to get me to LA just for the opportunities. Because where I'm from is a
Mhm.
small town. There's really no music infrastructure like that, and so for me, I've always been very logical. So I'm like, I'll take a risk if it's calculated and makes sense. And, but sometimes the divine, is you got to walk by faith and not by sight. You just gotta go. And I think if the Grammy opportunity hadn't have come up, I probably wouldn't have left. But the fact that it came up, and I understand like how once in a lifetime that kind of opportunity could be, and then they just weren't willing to work with me at all. Like, I'll let you're only supposed to give them like 2 weeks. I'm letting them know a month in advance. Like,
they just was trying to block your blessing. That's all.
That's all. That's what I'm like, you guys. I'm trying to make sure that you guys know. I'm thinking you'll be happy for me. The rest of the crew is happy for me. And so it was at that point where I was like, okay, do I miss this chance for Bowen, or do I take that?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Just trust the man upstairs to take care of the in betweens, and I just took the leap.
Because honestly, based off of like the entertainment industry, is who you know is almost more efficient than your actual capabilities. Because sometimes people just may like you as a person, and they'll work with you on polishing you to be what it is that they want exactly.
100%. And I mean, not even just in the music industry, but in general, like people are more willing to listen to and do business with people they like.
Yeah.
Or people that have personalities that they're comfortable with. So, we've seen a lot of artists like that where they may not be the best music you've ever heard, but you're like, that person's cool. And their
charisma is banging, like you want to be around them, so you want to listen to them.
Yeah. And so I was just figuring, if I just stay true to me, stay true to myself, it's all going to work out the way it's supposed to.
Exactly. And take your time.
That's it. That's literally why that was a message to myself. Because you set all your expectations, and I'm a very ambitious person, so you set all your goals high, and then you have to understand, there's a thing called timing. And I just had this conversation yesterday. It's like, you can put your best foot forward, but if it's not the right time for you to take that step, then it doesn't mean a whole lot. So it's really finding a balance between staying ready, and then when that opportunity does come and it's time to take that step and it's the right timing, being ready for it.
Right. So with taking your time, let's talk about Take Your Time, your most recent release. Tell me about, first of all, I think I would prefer to know, what's your favorite track?
My favorite track on the album? What is my favorite track? I think Help might be my favorite track.
Why Help is your favorite track?
And it changes. Because like a month or two ago, I think it was Dangerous was my favorite track. But the more I listen, I think Help is like my favorite track now. Because I think it was so resonant with how I was feeling at the time I created it. I feel like it was one of those points for me where things weren't turning over as fast as I would have liked them to. And so it was more like therapy for me. That record was more like a release of how I was feeling at the time. Like, why is it so difficult for everybody to just achieve their dreams and be in a scenario that's most comfortable for them? Why do we have to accept being uncomfortable all the time?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Right. And it's a real, and I just felt like when I was writing it, I was like, somebody's gonna feel this. I can't be the only one that feels this way. So and it's actually been
hard to be comfortable.
Man,
in every aspect of life.
It takes a lot of uncomfortability to get to a level of comfort.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you feel that when you created this album, were you trying to speak to people, or was this more like a monologue to yourself, like you were venting to yourself?
I think I had in mind that somebody, or at least I had the hope that it would resonate with somebody, but it was definitely a lot of conversations to myself. Yeah,
Did you learn from yourself when you listen back to this?
I do, because I'm still stubborn in a lot of ways when it comes to that. And then I'll go back and I'll be like, look, why don't you just take some of your own medicine that you're out here feeding some people? I'm like, yeah, let me reel it back. Let me dial it. Let me dial it back. I gotta chill out, man. I do. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was definitely the whole creation process for that album was very therapeutic for me.
Uh-huh. I'm always fascinated too because I feel like a lot of R&B artists say a lot of key stuff in their music, and then I'm always curious of like in times of tribulation for them or just like happiness, do you go back and listen to the music that you curated for people and use it as medicine for yourself when trying to
Hmm.
do anything? So it's really interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if it always happens intentionally, but sometimes you'll
Hmm.
just, especially as you're creating new work, you're trying to make sure that you're keeping it maintained at a certain level. So
Hmm.
you go back and reference your old work sometimes, and it's like you have epiphanies. You go back to the same space and mind state and emotional state that you were in when you were creating those records. You get to revisit, and then you're just like, "Damn, okay, yeah, this is
Hmm.
medicine, not just for other people, but for me. I need to listen to. I need to take a
Right.
moment.
Exactly, exactly. It's always good sometimes. It's hard, but it's
Yeah,
good.
definitely
Hmm.
hard.
So do we have any new visuals to be looking forward to from the album?
Yeah, so I just released the visual for free, um,
Okay.
probably like a couple weeks ago now.
Hmm.
Um, and then I got a series I'm working on called Sangria with Soul. So
Uh-oh.
I just turned in the first episode for that. We're almost finishing up the second episode. It's going to be a total of 5 episodes,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it's essentially some of my favorite sangria recipes paired with songs off of the album "Take Your Time" and Why.
Oh, that sounds nice. Where are we gonna
Yeah.
be able to watch it?
YouTube. So it's gonna be on the Mello Music
Okay.
Group YouTube site. Yeah, it's gonna be all there.
Oh, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be able to make my sangria here while we listen to
Yep.
the music. Okay,
Yep.
see,
Yep.
that's a mood. That's a vibe.
Have all the ingredients and
That's,
everything listed in there. Yeah, you'll be able to
oh
make your
yeah, I
own
like
sangria.
that.
Yeah.
That sounds tasty. So listen, before we wrap it up here, you have experienced quite a bit of lot, even proof of, running by faith and just jumping for an opportunity and seeing what
Mhm.
comes of it. Is there
Mhm.
anything that you would like to share to anyone who is aspiring to be in the position you are as a Grammy nominated singer-songwriter, producer, engineer?
Yeah, just patience. Patience.
Hmm.
It's you got to put your 10,000 hours in if you want something that's really going to last for a long period of time, and not nothing that's just instantaneous win.
Hmm.
It's going to take time to curate. It's going to take time to develop. It's going to take time to hone your skills and to be in a position where you're prepared to execute on some of those bigger opportunities. And most importantly, learn the business. Oftentimes as creators, we just get so focused on the craft and trying to create the best art that we can create. But
Hmm.
the moment that you decide for yourself that this is going beyond the hobby now, like this is a career field that you would like to, take care of you for the rest of your life, then you kind of
Hmm.
have to approach it with a business mindset at that point. So, if I'm going to apply for a job, I understand going in that my resume has to exemplify, certain things to give me the leverage to request for a certain wage or a certain salary. It's no different in music. I know that I have certain things that I have to accomplish first if I want the leverage going into a major recording deal that will, you know, prevent me from being taken advantage of. So
Right.
just to keep, my advice would be to just to keep that in mind, and for people that really seriously want to pursue this, learn the business, be patient, and put your 10,000 hours in.